We got into a little debate yesterday on the Pete Souza show about the Dallas Cowboys. The schedule, of course, dropped this week for the NFL. Cowboys schedule was released. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, as the Cowboys fan on the show, I was not very thrilled when I saw how this schedule lines up for the Dallas Cowboys. I have real concerns about this Dallas Cowboys roster, the way that it's been put together, and the opponents that the Cowboys are going to face this season. I have those concerns, because the Cowboys have a first-year head coach. And if you just look down the schedule at the opposing head coaches that Brian Schottenheimer is going up against this season, it's kind of a murderer's row of opposing head coaches. And then secondly, I've been very vocal for many years, but since I started on the Pete Souza show in October, I've gotten more and more vocal about I just don't believe in Dak Prescott anymore. That's not to be negative Nancy or super downer about it, but I just don't think he's a guy that's going to win you games against elite competition. Sure, he can pad his numbers and put up some great stats against poor teams, but I really struggle seeing him elevating his team to the point where they're going to overcome a great team. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here in the next few minutes. Bear the Truth chimes in with us. How do you rank NFC teams? Bear the Truth. Right now, I'd say the Eagles have to be number one, defending Super Bowl champs. I think the Commanders are right there neck and neck with them. I think you saw that when they played last season. I think what Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels have going up there in Washington, D.C. is special. I'd put the Cowboys 3, a pretty decent distance behind those two, and then the Giants are still 4, but who knows with Jackson Dart what that team's going to look like. That team is desperate for some wins. Otherwise they're going to have some coaches and staff get fired after this season, I think. So the Giants could be playing desperate. Hey, as we talk about that, let's just go ahead and break this down. Let's look at this Dallas Cowboys schedule. I'm using the graphic from my friends Blogging the Boys. Check out Blogging the Boys on X if you want some good Dallas Cowboys content. But if you look at the schedule, and I'm looking down at this computer in front of me, so sorry that I'm not looking at the camera. But if you look at the schedule, and we talked about this a little bit yesterday, the front end of this schedule lines up really nicely if you're the Cowboys. You should be able to get some wins early. Philadelphia, Week 1 is certainly a stout matchup on Thursday night, but you never know. That Week 1 magic can come get you sometimes. And could the Cowboys win on the road at Philadelphia? Sure. I don't think they will. But then you've got a streak there of 5 games where you should win 4 of them. Giants, Bears, Packers, Jets, Panthers. You should win 4 of those. You can lose to the Packers. That's acceptable. But you should win those other 4. You should beat the Giants. You should beat the Bears. You should beat the Jets. You should beat the Panthers. I will note the Bears and Jets have new head coaches that both came from the Lions staff, right? Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. And I believe in both those coaches. And you just never know. I mean, Ben Johnson could have Caleb Williams playing at another level this season for the Bears. But I think if you're the Cowboys, you can reasonably expect to open the season 4-2. And we're going to have a lot of Cowboys fans talking about how good we are and look at this and look at that. Okay, but then look at the schedule from Week 7 on. You get the Commanders twice. I think the Commanders are head and shoulders better than the Cowboys today. You get the Eagles again. You get Kansas City. You get the Detroit Lions. You get the Minnesota Vikings. I think the Cowboys are going to be heavily not favored. I think those opponents will be heavily favored in all those matchups. I think when the Cowboys face the Broncos and the Chargers and perhaps the Raiders, depending on how the new look Raiders are playing, I think the Cowboys may not be favored in any of those games. I'm going to talk more about the Raiders specifically in a minute. But again, going back to that thing about facing Brian Schottenheimer, first-year head coach, facing against great head coaches, even with the Broncos and the Raiders, teams where you might say that's about the level the Cowboys should be this season. You're facing Sean Payton and Pete Carroll. Those aren't just like great head coaches. Those are Super Bowl champion head coaches, right? Week 9 against the Cardinals, you should win that game. But again, you're at home against Arizona, but I'm never going to count out Kyler Murray. Like, that dude has made magic happen. They had a deceptively good season last year. They may take a jump. And so really outside of New York in the final week of the season, I don't see any guaranteed wins from week 7 on. I think if you're the Cowboys, I mean, if I was a betting man today, I might predict 3 of those. I might say, between Denver, Arizona, Vegas, Minnesota, Chargers, Giants, you should get 3 or 4 of those. And so then maybe you finish the season 8-9.